All right. You ready? We're good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here with the guy behind Epic Rides, Todd Sadow. Sadow or Sadow? I always say it wrong one way or the other.
Sadow.
Sadow. Sorry. All right. So Todd, he has been a guest over the years on Mountain Bike Radio, and he has had Epic Rides going for how long?
21 years.
21 years. And so you have considerable experience in the event space. And I'll let you talk about kind of all those different events that you have going with Epic Rides. But first, since we have so many new mountain bikers out there and so many new people to Mountain Bike Radio recently, the world has changed a little bit in the world of mountain biking as far as the future event users and racers and stuff. Give people a little rundown of who you are, maybe how it got to be, how Epic Rides got to be, like why did you start it 21 years ago? And go into a little description of the events that you do have going.
Okay. So Ben, as you mentioned, my name is Todd Sadow. I'm the founder.
I won't mess that up again.
I don't care. I've been called worse.
Right.
Let's see here. I'm the founder of Epic Rides. We started organizing our first event in 1999. And that first event was held in February of 2000. It's the 24 Hours in the Old Pueblo, presented by Tucson Medical Center. And that was our first flagship and event that kind of put us on the radar. And then the vision just kind of kept growing from there. So we also have 5 other events, and most of them are part of the Epic Ride series. The Epic Ride series consists currently of the Whiskey Off-Road, the Grand Junction, or the Whiskey Off-Road in Prescott, Arizona, the Grand Junction Off-Road in Grand Junction, Colorado, Carson City Off-Road in Carson City, Nevada, just over the hill from Lake Tahoe, and of course in Nevada's capital city. And then the 4th event in the series is the Oz Trails Off-Road in Bentonville and Bella Vista, Arkansas.
So how did you go how long did it take when you started Old Pueblo? How long did it take before you're like, okay, we're going to move on to another event?
2 years, 3 years. So we started an event that we don't produce anymore, called the Soul Ride, was our 2nd event.
Okay.
And in the beginning, I co-founded the 24 Hours in Old Pueblo. It was not my idea. I just wanted my foot in the door in the bike industry. I had been racing bikes since I was about 10 or 11. Raced mountain bikes all through college at the University of Arizona, which is how I ended up in Tucson. And the guy that managed the team I was racing on in my last year of college wanted to produce a 24-hour mountain bike event. He had done 24 hours of Moab a couple of times and was just smitten for the idea. And I said, well, I'll help organize an event. So I'll get my foot in the door. I'll find that job in the bike industry that I've always wanted and wasn't
finding. If only you knew what you were getting into. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, after 2 years of the 24 Hours in Old Pueblo, I had a job in corporate America that moved me to California, and the 24 grew really quick in the first couple of years. And so there's 3 founders of the 24, and by the time we were at the 2nd year, there's 2 of us left. And by the time that we finished the 3rd year, it was just me. And in that 3rd year, I also, whenever I decided to make Epic Rides a full-time gig or attempt to, part of that was a vision to add more events. And originally the idea was just to add a few more events in Arizona. And so the Soul Ride, which at the time, 100 pickup, Leadville was becoming a big deal. Montezuma's Revenge, which is way over 100 miles, and Ruthless was a big deal at the time. There's a lot of solo kind of stuff, big solo things popping up. There was a derivative of 24-hour racing, which was big team stuff, right? And so the Soul Ride was the next event. And then so that was 3rd year. And then the 4th year, we added the Whiskey Off-Road. And then in the 3rd year of the Whiskey Off-Road, the vision for the Epic Ride series was sort of born. We had this middle distance endurance event in Prescott that started and finished on Whiskey Row, which is in downtown Prescott. And it's a full city block or more of bars and restaurants and steeped in history. And as Southwest as it gets, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think cowboy as, you know, is kind of the thing. And so to throw a bunch of people in spandex on that block once a year is kind of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a big learning curve that, you know, led to the Whiskey Off-Road happening the fourth year of Epic Rides. And, you know, that thing became the model for the Epic Ride series. So, you know, once that vision was sort of born, I went to the city of Prescott and said, hey, I got a really dumb idea. You guys want to try this with me? And,
Yeah.
and I guess maybe the underarching piece here is that mountain biking was totally in the dumps. You know, it had been, you know, I'm going to say mismanaged in the you know, late 90s, mid-late 90s, early 2000s. And also it got splintered, you know, 24-hour racing popped up and it wasn't a sanctioned thing. Mm-hmm. And everybody that was riding got really excited about it. So it just stole everybody's attention away. And so, you know, and maybe it was just compelling enough at the right time, you know?
Yeah.
So the whole idea behind the Epic Ride series, you know, well over a decade, almost a decade and a half ago, is it was purely to just pick up and dust off the mountain bike, you know, mountain bike pastime. We didn't have a thriving national series anymore, and I wanted to create one. And, you know, so it's always been our directive at Epic Rides ever since. It's kind of a crazy thing to be bent on, you know?
It's a tremendous undertaking to come up with that idea and put it in motion nationwide.
If anybody told me what it was going to take, if anybody told me what it was going to take in 2007, 8, 9, when it was just starting to, you know, get some traction, I undeniably, like, you know, what is it? Older, wiser, you know, if I knew now what I knew then, I would have gone straight back to corporate America.
So you wouldn't have done it again?
In a pandemic? No. But obviously, I've kept doing it because I've enjoyed it.
I know.
And it's been great, but it's been hard. Yeah.
It does. Yeah, it definitely does throw a monkey wrench in things. But before obviously that's the whole point of this series of discussions. But before we actually get into kind of what's going on that way, what do you think it is that makes, in the question I said, you know, I gave everyone a kind of a list of questions. I said, what's your secret sauce? But what is it that makes your events tick? Like, what is it that whiskey, besides being cowboy AF, like, what is it that, like, what is it that you bring this new event, let's say Carson City, right? But what is it that makes it tick, that's consistent throughout and that people are drawn to it? And what is that? Is it you? Is it your team? Is it the event? What is it?
The team is a big deal. Like, the team is a big deal. Epic Rides is a good team. I call it, we call it our crew, you know, we're the Epic Rides crew. But I think what we do together as a crew at Epic Rides is we build community. That's all we've ever, our aim has always been purely to build community, to let anybody and everybody, from the, you know, most novice or beginner mountain biker to, you know, these days the world's fastest pro mountain bikers, to the communities that we operate in, Prescott, Grand Junction, Carson City, Bentonville, to Tucson, like, to bring the communities together and give them a good time, you know, give them a backdrop to have a good time together in, you know. We want everyone to feel welcome. We've got, you know, each event in the series has a graduated distance option. So, you know, the whiskey is the model. It's 15, 30, and 50 miles. And, you know, although the mileage
maybe
really...
50,
for the longest time, that event was 46 miles that rode like 50. No one ever complained. No one got back and said, I want my other 4 miles. You know, these days we're closer to 50. But, and, you know, that's another piece of it, is we always want to stay gritty and soulful, you know, like we're, you know, if you're a runner, and I say this, I swim, you know, sometimes when pools are open a couple days a week. I trail run often. I mountain bike as much as I can. I ride the road a ton right now. Like, I do a lot of things. So I say this, as someone who puts a toe in all the different, cardio spaces. I'm most passionate about mountain biking, but runners, if they're signed up for a 10K, they want 6.2. 5K, they want 3.1. They don't want they don't want 6.3, or 6.1. It's very, very important. Yeah. Right. Mountain bikers, we want to be gritty and soulful. We want to be as true to mountain biking as possible. And my lifetime in mountain biking, my interpretation of that is we're going to call it 50. It might not be. It could be 52.
Yeah. Can I say something though? Can I say something about runners though? Trail runners are way different.
Yeah.
Like if it's like 7, they'll be like, wow, I thought it was supposed to be 10K, but it's 7 miles, but it's close enough on my watch.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that. So I'm hopeful that there is some hope for the running world.
It's the difference between being off-road or on-road. Yeah. I think that there's a tremendous amount of enlightenment that comes with being submerged in nature, not on a paved path through nature.
Yeah.
Nope. Like people talk about gravel and the big gravel movement that's pronounced these days in the States. And I think that, that community, I think is so strong because it took a bunch of roadies off road, and they're now they're kind of enlightened, and it's a nice place to be.
Who knew dirt is enlightening?
Yeah. Nature.
Such a simple thing.
Yeah.
It's a good sticker, isn't it? Dirt is
probably a couple dozen John Muir quotes that can be dropped in here now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. So, that with that idea, how do you bring that community and that dirt enlightenment now? Like, what do you do given the situation? Like, I mean, we could talk about it, but you had 3 events canceled, right? Because you had April whiskey. What was May was Grand Junction. And
yeah, that would have been this coming weekend or next weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, let's start with this. When was your oh shit moment? Was it when the NBA canceled their season, or was it before that, or what? Because that was a big time. Like when the NBA canceled, that was like everything's done. I think that was like the second weekend in September, second weekend of March, something like that, like the 12th or something.
So the juxtaposition is we had the 24 Hours Neil Pueblo in February.
Yep.
And it was the 21st annual 24 Hours Neil Pueblo.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a near perfect event. Like we, thankfully, again, I got a heck of a team, and we put on pretty darn good events these days. It's nice. But like when I say to say something like near perfect is we had a really clean run at it. For a couple thousand people riding laps nonstop for 24 hours that are going to spool up like 100,000, 150,000 miles or something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. We all managed to walk away pretty unscathed. Like it was a clean run, And so we were coming off of something really special that's middle of February. So, give everybody a week to 10 days to just sort of feel the afterglow, like everybody that's in 24-hour town, not just our team,
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it becomes real that there's something happening that we need to be mindful of.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as the shelter at home stuff started to pop up is when it was like, oh, we got to address something. I think that's when it became real,
Yeah. And looking back, that just thinking about that, like in your shoes, looking back and just reliving that, be like, man, we had a perfect as you could be. And then it just went to like complete opposite, just like rip your heart out kind of thing,
Rip my heart out is that, and this is, I call this the world's slowest growing company. Like these events happen once a year, and you can't just like put a flag in the ground and say like 2,000 people show up tomorrow, we're doing this. Mm-hmm. EpicRides.com. It doesn't happen that way. Like to go into a new region, it takes years, and then to launch and have 600-700 people show up it takes a tremendous amount of effort. Like the amount of marketing that goes into convincing people to show up at the same place and do the same thing at the same time is a lot. And this year was really looking really good. Like we were really going to get the events established to where, across the board, they would all be relatively strong. We've always leaned on our stronger events to cultivate our newer events. Mm-hmm. And, sure, we could probably go down and knock on a few doors and get some extra money from an investor or something, but that changes the dynamic of everything too.
Right.
And that's part of that gritty, soulful, let's keep this mountain biking for us, And so, we've always extended ourselves quite a bit to build epic rides. And it's been fun to do it that way. Like you gotta be willing to sign up, and we've learned
that's
that
a long game
hire,
right there. Yeah, it's a long game.
Painfully. But that's what we do. We produce endurance events, right? So we live it, people ride it. We're on the same page, So anyways, it was, and I'll never forget, I was texting with another promoter. I won't say his name. I don't know if he's in your series of people you talk to or not. I can't remember. Yeah. But I was like, no, we were talking, and I said, look, man, we're going to get a year down the road. And I was literally joking with him. I was like, let's set a meeting on our calendars. A year down the road, we're going to look back at this whole threat of a, COVID-19 thing. And then not 2 weeks later, I was like, I got to redact that. That's the craziest. This is nuts. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to us. Yeah. As we're canceling events left and right, him and me. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is really bad. Yeah.
So with that first reaction is, oh, this is really bad. What was there hope still that you could run any of the events, or did you just say, all right, we have to come up with a plan on how we're going to extend this to next year? Or what was your first course of action with all that?
So we thought through the scenarios. I mean, we originally announced that we were going to postpone the Whiskey Off-Road. Mm-hmm. And then as time went by and we were vetting our options, there's been a lot of punches in the face, the good to have a plan until you get punched in the face, there's been I feel like I've been knocked
daily
on my ass daily.
So we were talking before the show about, we got one of those Nintendo classics. So I showed my kids Tyson, well, it's no longer Tyson's Punch Out, but Punch Out. And it feels like I can just see you as Glass Joe, right? Just constant, just get Is that kind of what it feels like? Daily, just something different.
Yeah, it's been a pretty intense thing to weather. To reference earlier, if I wake up feeling good, I wake up thinking, I got this. And by noon, I usually think, I'm pretty effed. This is hard.
Yeah.
And it's, you can't tune out the media, because that's where you got to go to figure out what's going on. Right. And you got to be smart enough, hope you're smart enough, or at least strong enough to decipher through, all the different headlines, what's important, what can you really use to factor towards a future. And if you wanted to have some strategy for what we look like coming out the other end, where does the other end exist at, it's been bumpy. And so, we postponed Whiskey initially. And then when we, saw a bunch of other events move into the fall, we thought, okay, do we own a weekend in the fall that goes to the Tour of the White Mountains. Do we just put the Whiskey on top of that weekend because we own it already locally? And so we wouldn't displace other event promoters. And then, Sea Otter moved to that weekend. We were like, well, it doesn't work, right? They have pros, we have pros. They have media, we have media. We're going to split everybody in quarters, thirds, and halves, and everybody would be upset, and most importantly, everybody would be compromised. But then the ringer, the non-negotiable was our safety network, which we have something that I've been proud of for a long time, that is part of that 20+ year history of operating. Mm-hmm. We have good event safety networks. We have really, really good event safety networks. We know how to design them. We know how to execute with the variety of, groups and professionals and everybody else that is part of it. They're not available. These events are big. Like they're really broad in function. The amount of different people that are part of our operational teams, from the core to the event committee to the safety network to the permitting components to the local police and and other emergency response people that are at least clued in, so that there's people on call that people hopefully will never see on an event weekend, but they're not available. Like they literally are, that first weekend in October or whatever it might be, they've got other events that weekend, or they've got other priorities that happen every year on that weekend.
Right.
The Whiskey Off-Road is the last weekend of April. The Grand Junction Off-Road is the third weekend in May. Like these are things that part of that 18-month build out to get an event off the ground, they get established, and then the world plans around it. Like the world plans around it. So it's that's when it became like, oh, we got nothing. Like we can't, discussion over. Like we've got to cancel. And then we need to, be very realistic about this too. We don't know when we get to open registration back up for another event.
Right. So what do you focus on right now then?
So immediately we dove into some team building. So the other side of this, and it's obviously not a good thing that we have time right now, but we've never had time. We've always, Kat, who I've worked with forever, Kat Green, manager of the miscellaneous at Epic Rides, over a decade at Epic Rides.
Manager of the miscellaneous.
Yeah, if
I like that.
you need to understand or get something done at Epic Rides, you go to Kat.
Yeah.
But she jokes because when we started working together, and she was part-time and contracted before that, decade of full-time. But we used to have summers kind of off. Like we had 3 events in Arizona, and there was this month or more that we really could take a break. And from the moment that she became full-time, we've been growing ever since. We've been adding events and, cultivating the events in a way that's very meaningful. And she jokes and says like, do I have that month off now? But she doesn't. We immediately dove into having this time on our side to start further developing our team in a way that we haven't had time to, to refine our team and our roles and everything else, so that we can be stronger when we come out of this. And so that hopefully we're in a position to, add another event or two in different regions of the country and to sustain, the movement in mountain biking that we've been driving.
Yeah. And I feel like it's very similar to like what's going on now with people's houses, right? It's just record home improvement, right? You've lived in the same house for 10 years. You've been looking at the wall saying, hey, we need to do something with that, and finally getting done right now. And I feel like that's the same. I had the same conversation with somebody else about events, and that's what it seems like. It's like with your business or whatever it is, my wife too, it's like there's certain things that she just hasn't done until right now, because it forces you to be like, man, I know this is worst case scenario, but what if shit really hit the fan and we were all sick and you couldn't do this and you couldn't do that? Like, what would I do? And she's like, well, so you start playing these things out and you do all your housekeeping. Like that's the most important thing. Your house is what you live in, and you don't take care of it. What do you expect? Right. So it sounds like for you, like it's a good opportunity to at least, let's get the house in order here and make sure we're all the best we can. And then we'll figure it out from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard though.
Yeah. I that first half of the day when I feel like I'm able to, keep punching at this thing, I see us coming out of this, and, I've always thought of us as, if you listen to Peter Tosh, the small axe, right? I mean, over the last decade and a half that we've been building the national series that we produce, the Epic Ride series, there's been other much bigger, much more deeply funded, like way deeper funded entities that have taken their shot at building a national mountain bike series. And none of them have succeeded. And here we are, this tiny little company, as grassroots as it gets, based in Tucson, Arizona, that continues to succeed despite our size and our, it's purely just, bleeding passion, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, that passion, you know, kind of coming through in the little glimmers of the day that I have it, I want to come out punching hard, but hard as shit. Like if it's 2021 that we get to produce our next event, when people show up, I want them to be blown away. I want to put 1.5 years of development of pure passion into those events so that when they show up, they go, we're back.
Hell yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Right. That's what I think about.
Do you see any opportunity with you know, I mentioned all the new people, you know, we're seeing like an explosion of people getting out on the trails, new mountain bikers. I've seen it and I've heard it from people. Do you think there's anything to that, like longer lasting? Are you going to see an influx in the next couple of years? Like, is there any opportunity there for you guys? Is like, this is a whole new world to kind of reach out to right now and, you know, get them excited about it, or what do you think?
Yes, absolutely. I keep hearing stories of like bike shops that are out of inventory, you know, things like that, you know, because they're selling so many bikes and that they're all entry level and mid-level bikes, which is great because that's the hard thing, you know, for our industry to churn through, right? Once you get someone hooked on bikes, then they work their way through, and, you know, I think that's why, you know, one of the reasons it's important that we come out the other end, that we are intact and able to produce events whenever we're able to produce events next. Because there's also this, you know, it's such an odd thing, right? There's more people recreating right now than in recent years, right?
Ever?
So there's this, maybe ever, there's this plume of recreation, there's this plume of entry into mountain biking, and yet we don't get to celebrate it together. And so, I think that there is an opportunity in that. And that's why it's important that we bridge, you know, and that we buckle down now and find our way to the other side of this so that we come out punching hard.
How do we reach them now? Or do we try to reach them now, or you let them do their thing and be like, hey, we're over here?
Do interviews on podcasts.
What's that?
Do interviews on podcasts.
That's something I'm trying to work through, is like, how do we put together something, you know, like even a short series of like, hey, you're new to mountain biking, come on over, let's have a discussion about. That's for future discussion. We can work on that, but there's opportunities, at least on that front.
Yeah, I think that their passion, I mean, one, we need to stay active in social media and you know, and continue to have a presence. Two, I think that their passion will in some ways lead them to us too, right? I mean, I don't know if you remember the last time you got excited about something, but it's pretty easy to go down the rabbit hole looking for content on things you're excited about. Yeah. You know? So like we're now in the 100-degree days in Tucson. And so that means
we just hit 70 here. The leaves, today, you would not believe it. The leaves are almost getting to be full leaves now. It's that far along in the summer.
We've been there for months. But I did Zwift the other day, and it was awesome. Like for 110 degrees out, if I, you know, spend the morning with my kids and didn't get to get out and pedal or run or anything, and I want to get in a workout, and the point being is like, as resistant as I was to sitting on a trainer, which I've never done my whole life. Okay. But now here it is, it's hot, and it might be my only option to get in a ride or a workout. And like, I find myself looking at, you know, hashtags Zwift and YouTube videos of Zwift. Like I watched the UK National Championships. It was like an hour and a half. Of course, I like fast forwarded, but I was like, this is pretty fun to watch. Yeah. So I think that as long as, you know, we keep staying, you know, keep putting ourselves out there in social media and so forth, then, you know, the people with newfound passions for mountain biking, you know, hopefully we can kind of meet each other in the middle.
Yeah. What's the plan for Bentonville then? Is it on like plan? You're just planning as it's going to happen and then kind of see how it goes?
Welcome to my roller coaster.
Yeah.
This is hard.
Yeah.
Like
you just work with the local health people and go from there.
So we closed registration on March 19th. The moment that we found out that large events could present a a major compromise to our host communities and to all the people in attendance, we closed registration. At that point, we had no confidence in what we were selling. We thought like, this is bad news, And so we just shut it down. And so now for Bentonville, for the Oz Trails Off-Road, for the Tour of the White Mountains, which is in Pinetop, Lakeside, Arizona, we're in a holding pattern. We don't know if, the CDC guidelines say no large events right now. So, we got nothing to report on. There's the roadmap to normalcy and reopening America. And, I think a lot of people might not realize, they're seeing that, hey, you got to sit far apart in a restaurant, and restaurants can open up at 25% occupancy, which is really hard to do for a restaurant.
We'll get to that in a second. I have a question.
Yeah.
On that, but go ahead.
All right. Well, I mean, we're poking at, what are the scenarios to produce an event with social distancing, but our events have concerts, our events are mass starts. Like, we're glad to find our way towards the start line, but we're at a very compromised spot right now. How late is too late to open registration? Does anybody really want to go to one of these events right now? If there's not a known accessible therapeutic or vaccine even,
right.
How many people really want to show up to a start line and feel safe, drill it in on a trail, yo-yoing with people back and forth that are sweating like crazy, blowing snot rockets, whatever else they have to.
And then, and then showing up afterward and having a concert of any sort or whatever it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's creative stuff happening where there's, people doing, kind of unsanctioned, like unpermitted, like invite only time trials on local, mountains and trails. And that's fun. And like, if you're comfortable with that environment, then show up and do it,
Yeah.
But for us, this is hard right now. Like there's no, and then I guess like a lingering concern is that we, a community tells us, hey, we want to go through with it. We want to have the event. Everything looks favorable enough. Okay, we open registration.
Okay. Yep.
We get 2 weeks before, which is October, and it's reasonable to expect a bounce back in this thing in COVID-19 because Spanish flu wasn't actually that bad the first year. It's the second year that made the Spanish flu and legendary, right? It bounced back and killed millions of people. And so what if it bounces back as we get into wintertime or fall, and we're right before an event. Now we have to cancel another 2 events.
Mm-hmm.
That's too much uncertainty. And then what's the gain, right? Besides us actually staying in business, that's important, but let's think bigger than that, right? Let's think in terms of if we have the event, let's say we bring a few thousand people to Bentonville and Bella Vista. Does it matter?
Yeah.
And that'd be if we had a good turnout, right?
Yeah.
So we're in a really odd spot. This is tough water to navigate.
Yeah. And, the other thing I was going to ask or mention was you brought up the restaurant, and you have, if you look at it from the business perspective, right? It's not like you're trying to steal people's money. You're offering a service for money to be a sustainable company and build this long-term, right? So from that perspective, it's like, if you tell a restaurant, yeah, open up, but 25% capacity, now you add all those costs to it. You have the employees, you have the heat and the lights that are on that were off when it was just closed. And then you only have 25% capacity. Like, are you really going to do it? Like, is it really worth
Will it put you out of business?
That's the really tough one. It almost put you out of business quicker than just being closed.
Right. Will it be a fast death instead of a slow death?
Yeah. So
that's the one thing that we're leaning on the most right now is just patience. Like, we know life isn't a sprint. Our events are endurance events. A pandemic, endurance.
Yeah.
Right? Let's just come out the other end. Let's see what shape our ship is in and then figure it out from there.
Yeah.
But let's make sure that we're there. Like, this will pass. It has to.
Yeah.
It has to. So
it really has to. Yeah.
Right. So let's just get there. We're more valuable to the mountain bike community, to each of our host communities, if we continue to stay in business. Right? Like I said, this is 20 years of lifting. Like, and I don't know how quick someone else can come in and do it, but
yeah, 20 years. So say you're building a house, right? You could build one with just sticks on the ground. It'd be fine. But as soon as the wind comes along, you're pretty much screwed. I mean, 20 years, you built a pretty good foundation of the thing, right?
I
I
think
mean, you have
so.
a pretty good head start. So good luck to anybody who wants to do it. Right? I mean, and the other positive thing for you too is like you guys, I mean, if you were leading into, I mean, it seems old. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of unemployment there, but they're still getting unemployment. We're getting stimulus checks. Like there's still hope. But as money kind of dries up and we have the realization that things aren't happening the way they used to, like even if I only have let's say $400 for my entertainment of mountain biking for the year, it could be less or more. I just pulled 400 out of my ass, basically. Like you're one of the, like if my one thing every year is Old Pueblo, right? I'm not going to go spend my money on something else. I'm making sure I get back to Old Pueblo, right? It's just you're at that point with that, like that event, for example. It's like, I'm just trying to be positive here with I'm trying to make your afternoon like as we go up here. Just so that's when I look at it. When I look at stuff like that, it's just that that's what you have going for you is you're a thing,
Yeah.
So, okay, I want to ask you a personal question then, because I want to some idea of what you've learned so far in these last 2 months. Whether it's anything that you've knew that you've learned, or that has been, I guess, something that you knew all along that just you've been reminded of, or confirmed. Like you keep bringing up patience and doing that, but is there anything else you've learned, or are you just constantly reminded of things you already knew? I've learned a few things about myself. Like I kind of dealt with bullshit before, and I don't know if it's part of getting older and I'm not having a midlife crisis. I did turn 41 last month. But the idea of worrying about, I was discussing, the best way to describe it is I was discussing another discussion about territorial versus sharing. So like some areas, some events, they might become more territorial. Some you'll find where groups of these people get together and say, hey, you have a concert there, you have a concert there. Let's work together because we only have half the people. And the only way we're all going to make is we work together. Some are going to be like, nope, I got to do my thing. Screw all you people. I lost all my tolerance for all that. I don't give a shit. If there's like drama in one thing, I don't give a shit anymore. Like I have my people, my circle, my family, the people I deal with, the mountain bike radio people, my people, like those are the people that I care for, stick up with, listen to, communicate with. That's why I'm on here with you. Like we've had a relationship for a long time, and like I reach out to you because you have great insight, right? It's like all that other bullshit, I don't care. And like the last 2 months, it's been refreshing because it's a reason to not feel bad about saying, you know what, I don't give a shit. Like I'm kind of sad of the day that goes, like when it kind of goes back to normal and it's not acceptable anymore, because it's pretty nice right now, right? So that's what I knew it was there, but it's kind of accelerated my focus on things that actually matter and saying, you know what, that's just whatever. I don't give a shit.
I had this conversation with a friend who's also an event producer yesterday. Mm-hmm. Him and his wife produce, I think, probably the coolest gravel event in the whole world called the Spirit World 100. And you can really get tangled up in that kind of stuff, like territorial or just people's baggage, right? And my point to him yesterday was, through all this, the one conclusion I've come to, just in the last, like, it's kind of submission, right? But it's a good submission. It's like all that stuff doesn't matter. Like I don't care about anything in the past. Like all the junk, an event coming in and stepping on our toes, or blah blah blah, or people being mean or whatever, or people saying mean things. Like, this is life. This is where we are. I'm going to look forward.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I think it's, we both have little kids, and I think, looking at it, especially you have little kids, so you'll get there, but mine are 8 and 6, and, it's like, how do they see this as you too? And it's like, I don't want them to see me worrying about, I want them to understand like what's important and what's not. And I don't know of a better situation to show that than this. And then I think about that, and I think about, well, why am I trying to be an example for just the kids? Like, why aren't I like that with everything else? And like adults and people that like, it just forced me to ask all those questions that I guess I didn't ask myself before. But
well, I mean, this is a good opportunity to slow down and to take an accounting of what matters, right? And that was like a big topic, and maybe a month into this was how much of this time and the growth we're having as individuals towards health and taking care of ourselves, how much of that is everyone going to take forward out of the pandemic? And maybe this is just another facet of that as far as mental health. And everybody's found extra time to go out and ride and run and get outside and to feel the benefit of that. But maybe this is the mental health side of that, where it's things have slowed down enough to get perspective and remember what matters and what doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know if history repeats itself. It's probably a small percentage of people will go ahead, and I don't want it to go back to being like normal or the way it was. Like, we needed something. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people have said this, and I've felt it from the beginning, and that's that, when a person gets sick, it's often, not always, but oftentimes because life can be out of balance, right? And they're not taking care of themselves the way that they need to. And so oftentimes they get sick because, it's like their body giving them a slap down and saying like, hey, rebalance, because, not giving me what I need. And maybe the pandemic is the world, mother nature's way of saying like, hey, world, get your shit together.
Yeah, no shit.
Like, maybe you're driving a little too hard in the wrong direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, so I don't really have anything else as far as the pandemic event type of thing. Is there anything you want to leave with people? Thoughts, or maybe some insight of what, you said it for 2021, the party, Epic Rides is bringing the party if they can. So anything you want to plug or get insight or anything you want to leave with people?
Well, first off, thanks for having me. I always appreciate it. It's fun to catch up.
Yeah.
And find us on Instagram or Facebook at Epic Rides. Of course, epicrides.com is our website.
Yep. And I'll put all the links in the show notes too, all the different events and all that kind of stuff. So
cool. Yeah. Yeah. I think for anybody that's been to one of our events that's listening or has known about our events and wants to come to them, just bear with us. Like, all we can ask for right now is everyone's patience until we get the chance to produce another event. And my promise to them is, when we get to produce another event, I promise we're bringing our A game.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. Thank you. Thank you for the time. I appreciate it. And that's it for now.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.